Like, this is called the Pesky Report. Like,
hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 612 of the Pesky Report, brought to you by Beyond the Monster. This is Jack pinch hitting for Jordan tonight, who could not be with us. I'm joined by Brian. So we've got 2/3 of the weekend crew. And Brian, how you feeling after this series in Pittsburgh?
I kind of got used to winning, and then we had the 5-game losing streak, so I was like, all right, but we got that out of the way and finally won one. But I don't know, like when you win that many games, 15, 16 games, you want more. So when you have these, I know they didn't have to face Skeens, which was kind of nice, but it wouldn't have been nice if we kind of maybe took a few more of these games than we did,
Yeah, definitely. Especially Pittsburgh's a team that's been scuffling coming out of the break. Yep. And as you said, Skeens got scratched. He was supposed to pitch today or tomorrow or yesterday when you're listening to this. Yeah. And they avoided Braxton Ashcraft as well, who's having a really good year for them. Yep. So they got favorable pitching matchups a lot of this series and failed to capitalize, which is definitely disappointing. Yeah. I guess we'll start by going game by game and going back to Thursday, which was a Jake Bennett start, which didn't go particularly great, which has been kind of the case for Jake as of late. He only managed to get through 4 innings, giving up 4 earned runs on 5 hits. Only 1 walk, though, which is encouraging, 6 strikeouts. What were your thoughts on Bennett's performance on Friday night?
Well, I know that when they traded early, it was like, oh, well, they did that because, or one of the reasons they did that was because they had Bennett now and he's pitching so well. And I don't know if Bennett's coming back to earth, if it's an innings thing or what it is now, but I think the last 5 starts or something, he's given up 3 runs or more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull it up now and I'm like, yeah, so, he gave up 4 runs, 4 runs, 3 runs, 3 runs, 3 runs. Then he had the gem against Tampa Bay back on the 17th of July where he went, 6 innings, any runs. But I mean, you look at his numbers for the year, 7-6 with a 3.46 ERA. He's still a decent, pitcher. It just, I don't know if they're starting to catch up to him. You know what I mean? They're sitting on pitches, it looks like. But, we're playing the Pirates and you want to take a couple of those games. And I think that was just a little disappointing.
Oh, definitely. And I think, the thing that we've talked about on this show before with Bennett is the fact that he's already blown past his previous innings in the big leagues. Yep. He's thrown 80 so far this season. He previously had never gotten past 70 in going back to since his sophomore year of college at Oklahoma. So it's been a while since he surpassed 100 innings in a season. He will get there, barring a weird injury, which we're obviously not hoping for. The one thing that kind of has me a little optimistic about this game is, as I kind of alluded to when going through the stat line, only 1 walk, which that's something Bennett was really good at earlier in the year in terms of the control. And during this kind of cold streak, he'd been walking more guys.
Right.
He had 3 walks against Sacramento, 2 against the Dodgers, 2 against Sacramento in Sacramento. And then you look at all the really good games he was having, it was 0 or 1 walk every single time. Only 1 walk in Pittsburgh, which, hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Now, obviously, again, small sample size, only got through 4 innings, needed 82 pitches to get through 4 innings, which is not what you want. That is a comedically large glass. Wow. But yeah, it's not a great outing, especially Pittsburgh as a team has struggled against left-handed pitching this season. And you would hope that Bennett would be able to take advantage of that. The big downside with it was Brandon Lau is such a Red Sox killer. His 21st career home run against the Sox, which is, it has to be the most among active players, right? I can't.
Yeah.
I don't obviously have that right in front of me, but 21 for Lau. I mean, and he's a free agent after the year, and I know infield is kind of unsettled at the moment, long term anyway, besides Arias, because obviously Arias is, hopefully the shortstop of the future. It seems like they might want Meade to play second base, but if he figures more into DH or whatever the case may be, there's a hole at second base. I think Lau could be someone who's interesting, especially the offense is getting much more right-handed as of late with if Arias comes up, Caleb Durbin's right-handed, Mead is also right-handed. So a lot more righty heavy of a lineup than they used to be when it was all left-handed.
Right.
Ramsey Lau was a left-handed bat, and as a guy who has historically hit well in Fenway or just against the Red Sox outside of Fenway, could make sense as a potential off-season target.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what did you say? 20? How many home runs does he get?
21.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at now is he's got 21. Top 3. One guy hasn't hit a home run in Toronto all year. Guy hit the retired numbers sign in Fenway Park, supposedly, but really didn't.
Yeah.
And the other guy, you can kick a field goal between his teeth like Michael Strahan, but he hasn't played for the Yankees in quite some time.
Yeah.
I didn't say any names, but you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, the guy who's like going to quickly rise through it is Caminero. Like Caminero's already hit like 5 against the Sox this year. So Caminero is going to be rising on that list, especially it feels like Tampa is going to lock him up.
Yeah, it'd be a smart move on their part to do that. I mean, he's a guy I'd love to have on my team.
It threw me out for a second, but I'm back.
Oh, Jack must have said a word he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, it just like threw me back to the main screen. Sorry.
He got naughty, but yeah, I was by myself for a second. You don't want that, Jack.
Yeah, unsupervised Brian.
Can't have that. Can't have that.
Yeah, but Willier, and then, so yeah, you only have Willier, and if Jaron is part of the team next year, which it feels like he isn't, Roman will obviously be there next year. So like Roman and Willier are kind of your only guaranteed left-handed bats in the lineup next season, because Adley's a switch hitter, and besides that, you're increasingly right-handed. If Yoshida is your DH next year, obviously he's another lefty. So Lau could definitely make sense. And besides that, game 1 was kind of depressing. The Sox offense, they managed 4 runs, but it wasn't anything really fun that happened. Willier had a double off of Bubba Chandler. Monasterio had an RBI, but wasn't really anything that noteworthy. Giovanni Moran gave up that huge bomb to Lau, which was on, I believe, the same pitch he gave up the bomb to Ohtani in Dodger Stadium.
Okay.
It felt very familiar as someone who was there in person for that home run.
Wow.
So that wasn't ideal. Moran kind of has me freaked out a little, but if he's going to be more of a lower leverage guy now, they have Eric Miller. It's less concerning. But yeah, game 1, not a lot that happened. Any other stray thoughts regarding game 1?
No, I mean, it's interesting. You know, Reynolds had 2 hits, and I remember how he was like amazing for like a brief period of time, and now he's just part of the Pirates team, and he's just going to keep playing.
Yeah.
And then I look at some of these other guys. I guess this was the first series that Pittsburgh won all month. Yeah, so I listen in the car at XM radio, and I always listen to like the away feed just to see like what they're saying. But yeah, they won that game, and they're like, well, hopefully if they can win 2 or 3, they can win their first series all month. And I'm like, well, there's no way that's going to happen because the Red Sox have their shit together. Well, little did I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just not a fun game 1, especially in a game where you thought maybe they'd get some good luck, but just wasn't a B. Game 2 was much more fun, though. Game 2 was great.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray threw an absolute gem, going 7 innings, 6 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He's been so big for this team as like kind of the de facto ace without Crochet.
Yep.
And the fact that this guy didn't make the All-Star team this year it's absurd.
Typically, the guy who has the most wins usually makes the All-Star team. Is that
right? One would think. And I know.
Am I like I don't know? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what's going on here. But
yeah, and I know like we've devalued decisions as a whole a lot, especially as guys are throwing less innings, less complete games. Starters have less of a direct impact on the decision than they did 20 years ago, let alone 40 years ago. But it really shows something the season Sonny Gray is having at 50. He's 36 years old and he's 15-3 right now with an ERA in the mid-2s.
Yep.
If it was 20 years ago standards, he might be the front runner for Cy Young at the moment, just based on that.
Absolutely. Well, but I mean, think about it. He pitched 7 innings, right? He only had the 1 walk. He only threw 86 pitches.
I would have let him back out there for
real precision. I mean, you're right. I mean, I wouldn't put him out for the 8th inning, but he's probably, like you said, he's been the de facto ace of this team. I think, going into the game, it was like, okay, how things going to work with Rushman. But, I mean, you saw how Sonny Gray was like up his butt the whole game, up to that game. Like they were like, simpatico. I mean, they were going to do well.
Oh, definitely. So that was obviously, the big thing. It's his first start without Connor Wong behind the dish.
Yep.
And clearly it worked out. And then the bullpen took care of their jobs. Eric Miller was really good. Chapman had a nice clean inning, which is nice from Chapman because we haven't had a lot of clean innings from him as of late.
And I think with that game, he vested his option for next year. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And granted, like it was going to get picked up most likely either way, but it's nice to just have it all squared away. I still think there is a world where, especially if this team obviously goes on an insane deep run and they win the World Series, he will be back. There is a world where they could sell high on Chapman following the season, especially if they believe in Eric Miller and they have Whitlock and they have a lot of guys in the bullpen. I could see Chapman moved to replenish the system after they've made a lot of moves too.
I think he likes it here though too.
I do too. And maybe they're kind of hoping if he has one more dominant year and the fact he really hasn't had a definitive team, would he consider a Red Sox cap in Cooperstown?
How much would that burn certain individuals if they retire his number and all that bullshit?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, hey, what happened off the field? I wasn't there. I don't know what's going on. I've only read police reports, but it's hard to argue with the results on the field.
Oh, no.
They're two completely separate things.
Right.
I know he rubs a lot of people the wrong way just because of things, that have happened and they're justifiably so. But, when we got him, it was like, yeah, okay, I guess like maybe he could set up, I don't think he's going to be the closer. And then he just morphed into this, I mean, I didn't have a lot of expectations on him when they got him.
No, I didn't either. I think most Red Sox fans at the time really, really wanted Tanner Scott, who had
thank God
a par year last year. This year, he's been much more of the Tanner Scott who we're familiar with.
Right, but the year before, it was like, thank God we didn't get that guy.
Oh, yeah, no. Last year, he had an ERA of 4.7, wasn't doing particularly well. Still managed 23 saves just because he's with the Dodgers. They give you the ball in the ninth inning. You'll figure it out.
You pitch 81 games with the lead, you probably save half of them.
Exactly. And he pitched 61 games, finished 33, ended up with 23 saves. This year, he's been much more of himself, a 2.2 ERA and 16 saves at this point in the year. So he should easily. Is there a bigger guy, Scott, than Tanner Scott, that is you're glad they didn't sign? Like you were pissed they didn't sign, but then it didn't work out. Like, I mean, to me, the big one right now, I know, like, I love to have him, but like I look at what Guerrero is doing this year, and I can only imagine the wrath of talk radio that would be thrown his way. And he's such a nice guy. He's not a jerk at all. From what I see, everybody loves him, and he's a nice person. But if he didn't hit a home run at Fenway all year, can you imagine? It would get ugly.
Like, it'd be insane.
Yeah, no, it would get very ugly very quick. And when I saw that, like, once again, Vlad, he seems like he's a really great guy, and he's had monster seasons.
Yeah,
he's a guy who, when that contract came out, I'm like, that's a lot of money for a guy who's not good. Even though he's actually a pretty decent first baseman.
He's won Gold Gloves.
Yeah. He's never going to provide you value as a base runner, obviously, which once again, he's a first baseman. You don't need that. But he's a guy who weirdly, if you look at Guerrero's stats, he has 2 good years, 1 bad year. 2 good years, 1 bad year.
This is historically bad.
Yeah. But yeah, this is probably as low as it's gotten for him. And it's bad. One of my friends, he's a Yankees fan, which I don't know why I'm friends with him, but he was saying to me the other day, and it's true, the Yankees have 3 first basemen with a higher WAR than Vladimir Guerrero.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
Because of Ben Rice, Goldschmidt, and then they traded for Luis Garcia. So they now have 3 first basemen, all of whom have a higher WAR than Vlad this season, which is crazy, because coming into the year, you'd expect him to be first in that stat, or maybe second if you're a big Freddie Freeman guy or Matt Olson guy.
Yeah. And I love the leadership qualities of Bregman, but it's like, was that a huge loss right now?
No, at this point in time, you could argue, Caleb Durbin has been more impactful. I mean, Durbin's having such a great year, and I think there's been an overreaction to Bregman's season this year in the sense that he's still, pretty good. He still has a 110 WRC plus. He's hit 16 home runs. He does have Durbin beat in most counting numbers except for stolen bases.
He's got him beaten salary. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and granted, Durbin obviously got off to a historically terrible start. If he was hitting the way he was hitting now, he'd be, he'd be possibly in contention for the Silver Slugger, or I guess he's in a division with Junior Caminero, so that's not true. But he's having a great season if we go from June 1st on. But I mean, Bregman's still been really good this season. He's been very good defensively as well. And the leadership qualities are legit. And I do think he'd be hitting much better at Fenway. Wrigley was always a bad fit for Bregman and his swing path and the kind of player he is and his hitter profile. I think his numbers would look much closer to last year. And last year wasn't even that good of a Bregman year because he was playing hurt. But he still managed 18 home runs in 495 plate appearances last year. This season, he already has 557 plate appearances. He is only at 16 home runs, which is not ideal if you're the Cubs and you just committed a lot of years and a lot of money to this guy. He's still playing elite defense. He's 5 outs above average at third base, which is great. He doesn't swing and miss. He's elite in terms of chase rate and whiff rate and strikeout rate. He gives you good at bats, and he's like having another coach in the dugout. So there's a lot of value in Alex Bregman. It's not like, you're getting a guy who just sucks at baseball and isn't bringing anything else to the table. Like when you sign a Pablo Sandoval and it's like, oh shit, if he's not playing well, there's nothing we're getting out of him. But it's definitely, if you're going dollar for dollar, I'd much rather have Caleb Durbin at his salary than Alex Bregman at his salary, even if I do think in a vacuum Bregman is the superior player.
Right. And you pretty much on the same thought process as I am, is that if they had Bregman, Suarez probably isn't here.
Probably not. And they could have both because you're the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, you could do a lot of things. And you still look at their total payroll, and it's not the lowest. It's on the upper end.
Yeah.
But I could totally see them, well, we got Bregman, so we had to be financially conservative and we didn't go after Suarez, which is bullshit. They could, but I could see them projecting that.
Oh, I totally could too. And would I rather have Ranger Suarez or Alex Bregman at this point in time? Ranger Suarez, especially if it's maybe you could argue, okay, well, they don't do the Caleb Durbin trade, so then they still have Kyle Harrison. It's like, okay, would you rather have Bregman and Harrison or Durbin?
That's another guy. Harrison, great for the first half of the season, but he's come back to earth a little bit, right?
Definitely. And there was always going to be regression. He was never that good. That wasn't sustainable. But yeah, it's definitely been a thing. And I think he's still going to be successful, especially with Milwaukee. They're a great coaching staff, and they do a lot of great stuff in that pitching lab. But yeah, he's definitely been hittable. And granted, he was on the IL. Maybe he's still not 100%. But yeah, he's definitely, the scales of that trade are definitely evening out, as opposed to on May 15th, we were like, oh my God, what did Craig do? Craig ruined everything.
Yeah. Not to stop doing the games, but my question, the big one that I had going in this podcast was, outside of Rafaela basically swinging at everything, even remotely outside of the plate and letting perfect pitches go by, what else is going on with the offense? Why aren't they scoring right now like they were?
It's a great question. I mean, I think something's obviously wrong with Contreras. I don't know if he still has any post-concussion symptoms from when he was hit in the head, which he played through and was fine for a little bit, but now he hasn't hit the lows of Anthony Rizzo when Anthony Rizzo was doing it, but you can't help but think of how bad Anthony Rizzo was after getting hit in the head and playing through it, and was abysmal for the Yankees for about a month and a half. I'm getting flashes of it. And he hit the home run the other night that makes you think, okay, maybe he's working his way out of it. But I think Contreras struggling has been a big part of it. And I think Adley has not been hitting so far. Granted, he's maybe still hurt as well, or he's still just adjusting, or whatever the case may be. But outside of Willier, they really haven't had a lot of offense as of late. And Abreu's been great ever since the All-Star break. He's just been hitting a lot of home runs and getting clutch hits. But if, Adley and Contreras are hitting 3-4 in the lineup and you're not getting a lot of production out of 3-4 in the lineup, that puts a lot of pressure on 7, 8, 9 in the lineup to contribute. And a lot of those guys haven't. Now, granted, today, so we get to a Connor Wong, big home run today and stuff like that. But it's a lot of pressure to put on the guys who aren't making the big money and aren't expected to be big contributors with the bat. And you hope, if Trevor Story exists, if Roman Anthony exists, some of those guys can help carry the burden. But right now, it's kind of weird, and some Sedan and a dream when it comes to the lineup.
Yeah, I don't know if Sedan's kind of knows he sees what's happening, and he's just pressing more.
Yeah.
Where when those other guys were doing their thing, like if he did it, cool. If not, it wasn't the end of the world. It was like a bonus. It's between like a 2 or 3 run game into a 5 or 6 run game. You know what I mean? And if you score 3, the Red Sox are going to win with their pitching. But if they don't score any, you know, do you see a planet or a world or a scenario or a pathway where Arias can get here before Story? It's not going to happen. Story's already rehabbing, and
yeah,
right?
I doubt it. I mean, I think the thing is with Arias, I think he's definitely knocking on the door with how successful he's been in Worcester so far. I think they definitely
are we past the point where we hold him out because of the lockout and you don't want to lose the development? Are we past that point, or are you still kind of 50-50? How do you feel on that?
It's hard because it's hard to know how the organization feels about a lot of the different factors at play. Because how does the organization feel about where he is progression wise? Because yeah, the numbers look great. He looks great. He's playing good defense. He's hitting the ball hard into all fields. Everything you see is great. But like, is there something that the actual, baseball people see that they're like, we still want him to work on this. We want to refine this. Or is there some weakness that, I'm not going game to game and watching every at bat. Is there a weakness he has that people might start to exploit at the AAA level? And once they start exploiting it there, you don't want to rush them to the big leagues where there are much more talented people that are going to exploit that weakness and that sort of thing.
Are they kind of babying him a little bit because of what would happen with Campbell, maybe?
I think there's definitely some trauma in the sense of with Campbell, with Meyer, with a lot of these guys. They came up basically, quote unquote, on schedule. And they kind of were like, okay, we need you, bud. And it didn't work. And with Roman, it did work. But Roman's also like a generational kind of prospect. Where the fact that they turned to Roman Anthony last year and said, we need you to save the season. And he just did is kind of crazy. It shouldn't have worked. And it did.
Do you see Campbell kind of maybe being a replacement for Yoshida? Like, because that'd be my dream.
Love it.
Yeah. I just wish they would just say, you know what? Let him be the DH every day, and then when a guy needs a day off, he can play the outfield. I know he didn't look great at second base, but he can get by. Like let him play here and there to spell a day, but that way he's never out of the lineup.
Yeah,
and because the exit velocities are almost night and day compared to earlier in the season. There's that video, I think Matt posted or he reposted it, where his hands are like here instead of here now. Yeah. It seems like he's getting the ball so much quicker, and it'd just be like such a jolt to the offense, and I think that's what they need right now.
Definitely. I mean, I've been to 2 Worcester games this year, one about a month and a half ago and one last week, a week ago today. And the difference in Campbell's approach at the plate was mind-blowing. He seemed so much more confident. He seemed, he was hitting the ball much harder, hitting it to all fields. He drew a walk. He had really good at-bats. He seemed like he was playing good defense in right field. Obviously, he's not going to be Willie Abreu in right field, but he can play passable defense.
He had a gun of an arm, though. He threw that one guy out at second base. That was a missile.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I hate that they just burned him from playing second base. I think that's very short-sighted with how Anthony Rafael Abreu is going to be your outfield forever, hopefully anyways. So there really isn't a pathway to Campbell as an outfielder on the Red Sox at the big league level, barring an injury or something weird happening.
That's why I like the utility role for him. Like
I do too.
I would keep him in the lineup every day, but I don't think you need a permanent DH. I think you need a guy who can do a few things. Right. I think it gives him so much more lineup flexibility.
No, I'd love it. Yeah, I really would.
It's funny. I mean, if I go to 4 games a month. If I can see it, you can see it. They got to see that too.
Definitely. I don't know why they gave up on him. It's like, because I get it. He was bad last year. I'm not saying
which is okay, which is fine.
Right.
Guys get better. Guys are bad defenders. Guys are good defenders. But he can spell it for a little bit. He's not Mookie Betts. He can't play every position off the top of his head, savant level. That's not normal. But it's perfectly within realm for him to play the outfield. If they're facing a tough lefty, and then give Anthony a day off. Hey, maybe Rafael is 0 for 15, give him a day off.
Right.
Hey, maybe Abreu, his dad's strength is a little low that day and he needs to rest. I don't know, whatever the thing is. Like, you can figure it out. Yeah.
No, I agree. And, I think the tricky thing is, because they said, okay, we're not going to do this, you don't want to just throw him into it at the big league level. You have to at least get him comfortable there again in Worcester
Uh-huh.
if you were to do it. But I think now is the time. If that's
Yeah.
something you want to introduce, especially if you want to introduce it before the end of this season, you got to start it now. And I understand the middle infield is kind of crowded because you have Arias now. Story's rehabbing down there. They still have Chang. They have a lot of middle infielders in Worcester right now, but they have Mikey, of course, as well. There's a lot of middle infielders in Worcester, but if you want Campbell to contribute, that's where he's going to contribute. And you did make a sizable financial commitment to him. He's clearly very talented. It was more of a confidence thing than anything else that was his issue last year.
How much do you think the rib injury contributed to everything? Do you think that was kind of not as made a big deal as it probably should have been? Because it was
probably
great in the minors. Had his first month, I think, in Major League Baseball, he was pretty good.
Yeah, he had a really good April.
And then it was just he was never the same. Then went to Worcester and kind of treaded water. And then would you say maybe for the first 4.5 months of this year at the minor level, he kind of was
he was fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
and it really wasn't until maybe a month ago, would you say, that he kind of got back on track? Maybe more.
Yeah. I'd say, it was about a month and a half ago, and it seems like something has clicked. And I don't know, as you said, his stance is kind of modified. He's doing something differently, which is good. Whatever you got to do to generate power, to hit the ball harder, to get better results, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And he's put in the work clearly, and you've made a commitment to him. He's a guy where it really hurts that they've made it the 28-man September instead of the 40-man September. Because if it was the 40-man September, we'd see Christian Campbell, 100%. There'd be no doubt Christian Campbell would be playing for this team down the stretch, and you'd get a look at him. And I hate that change. I understand people were like, oh, well, teams just added too many pitchers and whatever the case may be. Maybe just make a limit on how many pitchers they can have then or something. You can modify it in a way that the 28-man roster, it really takes away opportunities from guys who, could have shown something, the Rich Hill end of season. That might not happen without a 40-man roster.
Yeah, that won me a fantasy league.
Yeah.
I was working at Pawtucket, and I'm like, this guy, he can Long Island Ducks, Pawtucket, major leagues, he's going to be a stud. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Red Sox called him up. I think he made 4 starts and gave up 2 runs the whole time. It was insane.
Right.
I've never seen anything like that before.
Especially for the bad teams, I think the 40-man September is such an advantage to have. And I know the other argument is, oh, well, if they're doing that, they're going to bench their stars, and then it's a worse product for the fans or whatever. And I hear the criticisms. But if you're a fringe prospect on the Angels, the Rockies, or one of these bad teams, and you have a chance to show something, that's a great opportunity that the September call-ups used to be. That now, you're going to just add a third catcher and a lefty reliever, and that's the same team.
Yeah. It's funny because they got what? They lost today, and then it was Tampa. I think they won, but the Yankees won too. So, I mean, it's good they had that run. They get a little bit of a cushion, but it's the offense. I mean, we got to figure something out.
Oh, definitely. Anthony is hopefully going to be a big part of that, and we'll get into our casualty of game 2 with the fact that it didn't look good for Massa. That could be the year for Yoshida, which is a shame because he's been very, very good at the plate as of late. He's kind of settled into the leadoff role against righties, which has been nice. He gets on base. He gives tough at bats. But as soon as he got to second base, he immediately was calling to the dugout for someone. And that's never good when the player is like, I must leave the game, because normally they want to fight it as much as possible. And if he was in that much pain that he was like, get me the hell out of here, that couldn't have been good. He has had hamstring injuries in the past. His previous hamstring injury cost him a month. So I would assume probably a similar timeline on that. So they need Anthony more than ever because Mickey Gasper is now back in the bigs somehow, which
he did have the 1,000 OPS since he's been sent down. So that was the argument, right? I'm like, yeah, but come on.
He's Mickey he's the most quadruple A player I've ever seen in my life. It's just
he's the living, breathing Super Mario of AAA. He looks
he's a fun minor leaguer, but I just get terrified that Chad Tracy's gonna hit him leadoff again, or give him actual because if he's gonna hit ninth every once in a while, sure, whatever, it's fine. If I have to deal with Mickey Gasper leadoff again, I might lose my mind.
You don't like 3 catchers? You don't think that's sexy? Isn't that?
Mickey Gasser's not a catcher is my problem. If it was Jake Rogers.
Siegler's there too, you know? I mean,
yeah, and Contreras. So kind of 5 catchers if you want to get really crazy.
Yeah.
But
we were talking. Did you hear that? I think I brought it up on one of the last podcasts I was on, that supposedly Siegler throws with his left hand when he's in the outfield. But, yeah, which I can't find footage of, but I'm gonna try and find. I'm gonna look for that.
Yeah, no, that's very cool if true. He's a fun player. Like, he's clearly a bench guy, and people who are like trying to make him into like he's he's gonna be a legit like starter. Crazier things have happened. Maybe it will.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, ride the way. Look at Monasterio playing shortstop. I mean, he's riding that as long as he can.
Well, yeah, with the bat anyway, with the glove. Oh my
God, that's so bad.
Like, we're rapidly approaching Kike levels in terms of the defense and shortstop. It gets ugly at points with Monasterio.
How much better is Story going to be, though?
Well, with Story, he'll definitely get to balls. That I'm not concerned about, which with Monasterio is an issue, where Monasterio doesn't get to a lot of balls.
Yeah.
Story will get to them.
Yeah.
Now, will Story throw the ball 5 feet over Contreras or Sogard or whoever's standing at first base's head? That's the legitimate concern when it comes to Story, because that's come and gone throughout his career. Most of last year, he had no issue with it. And then September came around, and he was just sailing balls, and that continued into the start of this year, which is kind of scary. I mean, Story at second could be an option, especially if Arias is a thing as well. If Story's hitting, there's a case to be made. Those 2 guys is the middle infield at shortstop and second base. But the roster crunch is going to be a legit thing. They're going to have to make some tough choices with who they send down and what it's going to look like, because they're only getting 2 roster spots come September 1st. They're not getting an extra 14 where they could kind of hide all these guys and stash all these guys. Like, they definitely wanted to keep Jake Rogers in the organization.
Yeah.
But Connor Wong has been too good to send him down, and he has the rapport with Sonny. Right. So they had to expose him to waivers, and the White Sox very wisely brought him in.
That was a good move. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like that move a lot for the White Sox, especially with the injuries Teal has had. Like, they could use a stable catcher on that team. Drew Romo is not a real player. Like, they need an actual catcher in Chicago.
So Roman's going to start his rehab soon.
Yeah, Roman Tuesday.
Story already played.
Yeah.
Anything on Crochet yet?
He's throwing, I guess, but
so
no real
best case scenario, he's like Bayo kind of out of the bullpen.
Yeah, they've already said starting's off the table, but maybe some bulk relief or something.
Which, to be honest with you, in the playoff series, that might be what you need to,
right?
Which is fine, because I mean, if he was a 3 or 4 or 5 starter anyway, that's probably what he would have done. Where it's not like we're praying for some guy who went to Army for a couple of years is going to be our number 3 starter in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. As long as Ranger's fine, Ranger, Gray, and Tolley, I'm perfectly fine with those being my top 3 starters, especially with the way a lot of these series are formatted. Yep. You don't really need 4 starters until the ALCS.
No.
So
what's your take on the seeding for the playoffs as far as, so you got the first 2 got buys, and then the third division is like, there's not much of an advantage there, So I'm wondering, do you think the Red Sox are better off not frogging the Yankees and being the lower seed, just the way the bracket goes on the next round, or have you looked at that?
I mean, what I'd say is, I'm fine leapfrogging the Yankees. My thing is more, I'm fine getting leapfrogged is the thing, because it's I would rather play the Astros than the Yankees at this point in time.
Right? That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So, you don't want to try and be the smartest kid in the room and have it blow up in your face.
Right.
I'm looking at the path to get deep in the playoffs. I'm kind of would rather not play the Yankees. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've obviously dealt with their injuries. The Yankees are in a weird spot with no Judge, no Stanton, no Bellinger, but they have a great pitching rotation. If you have to go to the Bronx for a best of three consecutive nights, especially with Schlittler after what he did last year to us, that freaks me out to run it back. And I think the Red Sox are a better team than they were last year on the whole. I think there's some strengths of last year's team, but on the whole, I think this is a better roster.
Are the Red Sox better off having these games on the road now? Or because they had that winning streak, does that not matter anymore?
Yeah, I think the winning streak assuages my fears about that versus if you asked me that before the win streak, yeah, I'd much rather go on the road because they've been so bad at Fenway this year.
Yep.
Now they've kind of at least balanced things out to a point where I'm less concerned about that
Right.
because they're back to only 2 games below 500 at home, 10
Which
games.
is still insane if you think about it.
Oh, yeah. 10 games over on the road, counting this road trip where they were very bad on the road. Like, they just went, 2-5? So it's like they were much better on the road going into this road trip.
And, I hate to get ahead of myself, but I mean, Crochet is probably maybe healthy next year. So the pitching, and then they could bring back Gray, which he likes it here, which is a possibility. I don't see like a big drop off next year pitching wise. I see a lot of familiar faces coming back. So it really comes down to if they can figure out what's going on with the offense, and they wouldn't have that historic slow start like they did this year. I'm feeling kind of good about this team going forward.
No, I am too. I think they're still on the whole young team outside of a few veterans like Contreras and Chapman.
Yep.
And Ranger and Sonny are both, not old, but they're both, true veterans.
Sure.
But they've got a lot of young talent. They're well set up going into next year where they don't have a lot of holes they need to fill. They kind of filled a lot of the holes we thought they might need to fill at the deadline by getting Adley. They don't have to go get a catcher.
Well, that's huge right there. If you look at the numbers from Adley, you're like, oh, well, he's not Mike Piazza in the 90s, like number wise. You're like, oh, where's but nobody is anymore. But I mean, just having a solid catcher now instead of Wong, and I mean, Navarro's last year was great. But I mean, you saw what he was when he got exposed to, reality and, full season,
Yeah. So they took care of that whole. One of the things I was talking about all year is like, I want a legit lefty reliever to bridge to Chapman. They got Aaron Miller.
Yeah. You got Kenny Powers, basically. I mean,
yeah. So it's like, okay, well, we solved that need. We solved the catcher need. If Curtis Mead can play a passable second base, which is what they say he can. Apparently he's a butcher at third, but he's passable at second.
Yeah, which is fine.
Right. I'm good with that. Caleb Durbin's at third. So if Mead can play passable at second, that's your second baseman next year.
What do you think Durbin's stats line looks like in a full season where, like he doesn't have that, he doesn't bury himself the hole? Like what's his?
This is a great question because what were his numbers last year? Last year he hit. I know he was the runner-up for Rookie of the Year last year. He hit 256 with 11 home runs. So you could argue he's actually been better this year because he's hitting 252 and already has 12 home runs in less games. So he's, even with the historically bad start, he's outproduced last season. So could he put together, a 275-ish average with, 18 homers if everything clicks and drive in a lot of runs just by having good results and playing Gold Glove level defense at third? Yeah. And that's probably like a close to 5-win player if that's the case.
I got one more tangent before we, go back to circle back. Is 30 home runs back on the table for Abreu?
What's he at now?
22, I think, right?
Let's see. Yeah, 22.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Okay.
I think it's definitely possible. Now, he's a guy who gets hot and gets cold.
Right.
So he's going to need to do this and stay hot or just sustain. But yeah, how many weeks of the season are there left? There's like 6 weeks left of the season, right?
It's doable, yeah.
Yeah, there's like 6.5 weeks of season to hit 8 home runs. He can do that. Yeah. He can definitely do that.
Because I remember there was a point where like, I don't think it's going to happen this year. And then he kind of had the resurgence,
Oh, since the break, he's been like on a mission.
I think right since the break, I wouldn't say he's the best hitter in baseball, but he's in like the top, the top third easily.
Yeah. And that feels like that's something that can be like easily pulled. If I just go to splits, let's see, post All-Star break. Yeah, he's been right around that like top 5 to 10 range in terms of production.
Yeah.
So like that'll play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Saturday, so many things happen. Yeah, we kind of already addressed the Sonny Gray of it all.
Yeah.
Willier hit an absolute bomb in that game, which was fun to get him to 22 and make it so okay, we're starting to do this again. I know a lot of people had a lot of feelings about Jared Jones's jersey being like completely open. He just was like full chest out on the mound. It's like, good for him, I guess. He was pitching really well outside of that Willier home run.
Right.
He was having a great start. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. I know his results haven't been that great this year, but he's only made like 10 starts. He had Tommy John very early last year, but I mean, that fastball has such velocity on it and such vertical movement on it. Like, he's going to be a problem for a long time if he can avoid the elbow injuries. Like, he's got truly great stuff.
Yeah, it was a fun game, 4-0. It was okay. All right. I looked at, runners on the base. They were 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. I think they had a few chances.
Yeah.
But hey, they won the game. But I think the big story, and I'm sure you'll get into it in a second, Yoshida kind of, getting shot down, kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's concerning because Yoshida has been hitting really well as of late, which we kind of already talked about. And it's funny because as soon as like the Roman rehab news started, it's like, okay, Jaron to the bench, right? Jaron to the bench, right? And then Yoshida goes down, and it's like, oh my God, he found another way to stay in the lineup. There's I don't know how he keeps getting away with this, but it feels like now moving forward is going to be kind of Roman and Jaron.
What was that? What was that movie? Was it Ferris Bueller or something? Where one of the sister, there's some movie from '80s movie, and literally like the girl says, "How does he keep getting away with this?"
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't anybody see what's going on here?
Yeah, but no, it's crazy because like Duran, he kind of had a hot streak a few weeks ago where it's like, okay, maybe he's turning it back around. It has unfortunately fizzled out, and it's been back to kind of.
Has a guy ever hit? I mean, I was talking with my dad about it. 16 home runs, but hitting under 200, like Rob Deere, I think maybe. And then who's the guy who he played for the Yankees and changed to a pitcher?
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
Why is his name escape me right now? He had like 187. He played for Houston for a little bit too, right? Didn't he?
Yeah.
Or something?
Oh my
you
God,
know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Dad moment. I just don't remember what the guy's name was, but you know what I'm talking about. But it was like, how the hell can I? And I think Duran's got like 60 something. He was second in the team in RBIs for like a long time.
Right.
It's really just the strikeout. Not even the strikeouts are crazy compared to like historical numbers for Duran. I'm looking at like his season stats. It's really just he's just not getting hits.
No, he's not getting hits. He's not stealing bases when he gets hit.
Well, he needs to get on. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, he had 191 hits in 2024. He's only got 91 now. Now I do know he played 50 extra games, but even still, 100 less hits.
Yeah, if it wasn't for his tennis racket incident, he had a legit chance at 200 hits that season.
And he's only got 3 triples this year. He had 13 last year and 14 the year before that.
Yeah, it's not good, and he's playing good defense in left field on the whole. I know he had that misplay like a week ago that had everyone really upset, but on the whole, he's solid defensively. But yeah, nothing is kind of going right for Duran. He's not walking. He's striking out. Not a crazy amount, but it's not good either, and he's just not hitting the ball hard, and it's just not going well for him. The results haven't been there, but the process hasn't also been there. Like, you look at it with Duran, he's a guy who you might like want to think, okay, maybe the underlying numbers, he's having some bad luck, but no, this is just kind of who he's been this year. And I know his BABIP is really low, which for Jaron makes no sense because a guy that fast, he should have a good batting average on balls in play. He's hitting 250 on balls in play, which that's not what you want from Jaron. When historically you look at last year 326, year before that 345, year before that 381.
Yep.
It's like, because a guy with that kind of game breaking speed on balls in play, he can kind of steal hits, he can make things happen. He hasn't been getting those this season, even though his speed is still there. His sprint speed is still very high. But he's not stealing bases. He's not stealing hits to then steal those bases. He still has 61 RBIs, which is pretty high, but he's hitting 202, and that's not gonna cut it, especially when he's not walking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's long for this team. I mean, I think in the offseason we're gonna figure it out, and then I don't know. Unfortunately, Twitter is not his friend, and I think being, if there is a lockout, he might have some extra time on his hands and he might say something that he probably shouldn't, and then that might just expedite the process. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of positives on this team, but I mean, I don't think he's in the future, unfortunately, because he's a talented player, but there's a lot going on there, but I don't think it's worked out with it,
No, and it's just a shame because I think, if you had moved him at the deadline last year, you could have really sold high on a guy. Especially, I understand, because there's some people who are like, as soon as 24 ended, they should have traded him. And I understand that thought process, but it would have been very hard to sell people after the season he had, a top 10 MVP finish, winning the All-Star Game MVP, to be like, okay, we're going to now trade this guy after we, especially if Devers then got moved right after. It would have been very hard for the fan base to get behind that.
Have you got over, do you trust Craig now? Has he redeemed himself?
I think he's definitely had a lot more good than bad at this point, which is, encouraging, because I think, I was more harsh on Craig in general than I think, I think I leaned more on the I don't fully buy it with Craig, even though he had some moves that are like, these obviously clearly worked. The Crochet trade was a no-brainer, but he still pulled it off. Chapman was clearly a great piece of business, but besides that, I was like, okay, I'm going to need to see more. And the Devers trade really kind of freaked me out a little bit, in the sense I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And Devers is still having a solid season. He's really turned it around. He's going to breeze to 30 home runs, the first Giant since Bonds to do so, which is a ridiculous sentence. They've won 3 World Series in that time and haven't had a 30 home run hitter. But, the Durbin trade worked, which is kind of insane based on where we were a few months ago, that at this point you feel fine about that trade. All 3 of the players you received in that deal have contributed to this team. And you look at even earlier in the season when they were struggling, it was because of either injuries or to guys who he didn't bring in, or guys who he didn't bring in playing poorly, whether it was Duran playing poorly, Story playing poorly, Anthony getting hurt, outside of Crochet getting hurt, which is a guy who he brought in. It's like all of the kind of bad things that happened early in the season were guys that were either Dombrowski leftovers or Chaim guys. They weren't Breslow guys. So the Gray trade has obviously worked. Contreras, Ranger, kind of everything he's been touching as of late has really turned to gold. There really hasn't been a lot of bad things versus like last year. The Dustin May trade was like, oh my God, how did this happen? And it seems like he's been learning a lot on the job, which is what kind of encourages me.
I know early on they got rid of a bunch of, obviously Cora left, and then we heard stories about how they got rid of a lot of scouts, and one of the reporters is like, oh, it's a toxic place to work and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. Do you think any of this offseason, this trade deadline, did Henry say you have permission to do what you want now? I joked with Jordan that it's like, the ghost of Lucchino basically came in and said, listen, like, throw your nuts on the table, make a move, boy. Like, don't stop being a, little bitch and do something, or maybe did Theo talk to him or something? Like, something was different this offseason. I don't know if it's like, hey, I might lose my job.
Right.
Like, there was definitely some motivation this year that made him do something different.
Definitely. And I think a lot of it was, I think the fact that he was empowered to move on from Alex Cora, who's a guy who clearly Fenway Sports Group and John Henry have a lot of affection towards Cora. And it seems like Cora was going to be allowed to manage the Red Sox for as long as he'd like to, was kind of the indication as recently as, spring training. And the fact that they pulled the plug on him so early, it was really, okay, Craig, this is your ship now, sink or swim. And he has kind of, I think he knew if they, finished in last place this season, he probably would lose his job. And I think that leads to a sense of urgency. And the moves he made at the deadline, so far early indications are good. I know Adley hasn't been hitting, but I'm not that worried about it, even though he has gone through stretches of not hitting in his career. And that was always my one thing with Adley. I think the defense will be great, but he's had rough stretches at the dish, which hopefully this isn't one of them. And it's just, a bad week coming off the IL. But, Miller looks really good, and Eli White has contributed. Jahmai Jones is a midseason guy, has been incredible as new Rob Refsnyder, who has since retired.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to come back for a day like Matt Barnes, so he can retire as a Red Sox?
He should. I loved Rob. Rob was one of my all-time favorites. I said to my friend who I went to the Worcester game with on last week, when he got released like a few days before, I think he got released on the Tuesday and I was going to the game Sunday. I said, there's a non-zero chance Rob is playing for Worcester when we get there. Like, it's not likely, but it's possible He's on a minor league deal with the Sox by the weekend. And obviously he opted to retire, but I have no doubt the Red Sox at least called him and were like, you have any interest?
There's something else I want to get to after, but do you want to recap the last game? Or
we should.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, just so we stay on track. Not that today was much fun to talk about.
No.
Because it was bad. There was a long rain delay midway through. Today, Sox lost 8-3. Patrick Sandoval getting the loss. He was not particularly sharp today.
Before we say anything else, there's an ad read, right?
Oh yeah, we've been moving that to no, we last couple episodes we've been doing that before previewing.
Oh, okay, my bad. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure.
No, we will get there. I promise.
For the one person and our parents that are listening to this, we're kind of filling in for Jordan. Matt is the co-boss, if you want to call him that. He's tied up tonight, so Jack and I are doing the best we can. But we've got a lot of information. We just want to make sure we do it right.
Yes, no, definitely, and we will get there. But that's a great teaser for people are gonna want to hear the ad. It's a good one.
All right, but rough game with the rain delay. I know for me that's kind of when I started tuning out, and then I would check back, and it was still raining. So
yeah, no, it wasn't fun. I was listening to the radio for most of it so I didn't actually watch a lot of today's game. I did get to see some of the highlights afterwards.
Yep.
And Sandoval did not look great. 7 earned runs over 4 innings, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks.
When you listened on the radio, did you get the part where basically like he was cramping and he's like, I'll do it, I'll take care of it? They're like, and they didn't say this, but it was almost like they're like, oh, he's doing what Evaldi did in the World Series, and you're gonna look back in this game and he's really taking one for the team because he's protecting the bullpen. And I'm like, not really.
Yeah. That's, I think, a big stretch.
No.
I was, and once again, I didn't watch a lot of the game. It seemed like both Wills were very upset with the umpiring in this game. I heard.
Yeah. Once again, the Red Sox are appealing obvious plays that shouldn't be appealed, and they burn themselves because then later in the game, there's pitches that obviously get missed by the umpire, and they don't have any challenges left.
Yeah. And I saw some of them on Twitter or just watching the highlights once I got back home during the rain delay. But yeah, this team has been really bad at burning ABS challenges. It's not great. Adley's been pretty good at them since coming over, which I appreciate. But in general, this team has not been good at ABS.
There's going to be a system. I mean, this is the culture that had the trash can, that would bang on the trash can, that had the watch, that had the camera in center field. If a guy isn't sure about a call, he can't look at some random dude in the dugout who's already looked at it and be like, no, yes. I was like,
I know it has to be immediate, so I think that's where it's tricky because you only get a second to make the decision.
Well, yeah, but you know how let's say if there's a play at first base and they're going to do it, they do. There's like a 5-second pause. I mean, it's
there is for those, but for ABS,
when the pitches, it's different. Okay, all right.
Yeah, with ABS, you have literally a second and a half to make the decision.
Yep.
Otherwise, they won't accept it.
And isn't it a crime that Tristan Casas has never been able to do that at the major league level? Because he would be.
It's a shame he's never been able to do it at the major league level while Alex Cora was still the manager. Because there would have been an at-bat where he burned both. Yeah. And then they were out of him. And it would have been in the first or second inning, too. Right. And Alex Cora would have killed him with his bare hands. And it would have been so funny. And now I don't know what's going to happen first. Alex Cora manages for the Red Sox or Tristan Casas plays for the Red Sox.
Well, there was a rumor for a minute that Alex Cora was going to be the GM of the Red Sox at one point. There was a story. Right. I want to say it was in the Herald or something. Yeah. And then that died. That story died.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of talk. Was he might be the next general manager of the Red Sox. And the way, the success Breslow's had, that's over. It also, it was Bob Nightingale, who's not exactly Mr. Reliable. But Bob Nightingale reported today or yesterday that unless the Phillies make the World Series, Alex Cora will be the next manager of the Phillies, and Don Mattingly will be relieved of duties. Even if they make the NLCS, Mattingly will not be safe. It will take a World Series appearance for it not to be Alex Cora in Philadelphia.
All right.
So it seems like that's where he's going to land, but also it's Bob Nightingale, so he sometimes just does things.
All right, well, my kids are screaming, so I think we got to get on to this next coming series.
Yeah. Anything else about today that's worth noting?
No, not really. No.
Okay.
I got something I want to end with real quick, but let's breeze through this and then.
Yeah. So, what this episode you might not know about It's also brought to you by TJ Stats. Here's the ad read for you, Brian. They provide advanced MLB stats and tools, including pitcher summaries, prospect rankings, and live pitch data. Head on over to tjstats.ca and use the code PESKY for 25% off your first month. It's a great resource, and that way you can preview these players we're going to be facing when Arizona comes to Fenway starting tomorrow. And brief look at the matchups. Tomorrow night as a 7:10 first pitch between the Sox and Diamondbacks, Alec Gamboa, who has no decisions so far this season with a 1.59 ERA, will be opening. It will mostly be a bulk Brian Bayo game, going up against Mitch Bratt, who is 1-1 with a 3.74 ERA. Then Tuesday, it's another 7:10 at Fenway, where Ranger Suarez, who's 4-3 with a 3.25 ERA, will face off against Merrill Kelly, last year's trade deadline target, who didn't end up here. He has a 5.11 ERA this season, which is not good for a guy who has been very good for very long. And Wednesday is a 4:10 getaway game for Arizona. Sox homestand continues, though, as Peyton Tolley, who's 8-6 with a 2.97 ERA, will face off against Brandon Pfaadt, who is 7-1 with a 3.11 ERA. Brian, thoughts on the series?
This upcoming series, I mean, I always go sweep, but I know that's ridiculous. So 2 or 3 is probably more the more realistic way to go.
Yeah, you know what? You always say a sweep, and it feels a little scary that you're not. So you know what? I will. I'll go with a sweep at Fenway. I think they have the advantage. Bayo pitching bulk has been very successful.
Saying sweep right now at home.
Yeah, it's scary because they are at home, but Bayo's been very good in bulk, and Ranger Suarez against Merrill Kelly. I like that matchup based on the season Kelly's having. Wednesday is the 2 best pitchers going, but Peyton Tolley is rapidly approaching crochet territory. I'm just not picking against Peyton Tolley unless he's facing like a legit like top 5 starter in the league kind of ace, like he's facing a Yamamoto or a Wheeler or Mizorowski.
Yep.
Other than that, I'm kind of just riding with Peyton Tolley moving forward because he's just been incredible. It's a shame we didn't get to talk about his start. That would be so much more fun. So I'm going to go with a sweep. And so those final thoughts you had, let's hear them.
Hey, Jack. Yeah, Field of Dreams, Red Sox. So, buddy of mine lives in Chicago. They're playing the White Sox right before that in Chicago. With the grace of God, hopefully my wife will allow me to go to Chicago and then go to Iowa.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting that the Red Sox have that opportunity. One of my friends, he's actually from Iowa, and I guess people who live there get on the list for that in advance to get like early tickets. So he was like, I will put myself on the list if I do get selected. Just let me know. I'll let you know when we can talk. And so it would be nice to be able to go for face value if that comes through. So yeah, it's very exciting. I think the Royals are kind of a weird matchup for it, because it seems like they've liked to do a lot of interleague games with this. And the Royals are kind of a more recent franchise than a lot of the teams they've been picking. They don't have a ton of history comparatively, but it should be a great game. Bobby Witt Jr. on a national stage, and Jack Caglione. So a lot of good young players in Kansas City. Maybe Michael Wacha will start against the Red Sox. That would be fun in the Field of Dreams game.
I just hope the strike doesn't screw it up. That's my big thing.
Yeah, the strike, and they have to have ABS installed for next year's, because that's crazy that they just didn't have ABS for the Field of Dreams game. That was kind of like a little silly that they were like, oh, by the way, tonight we have all the rules except one of them. It's like, it's a little weird, because
if I go, Jack, and you go, we'll definitely we can definitely do a podcast from Iowa. I'll definitely do that with you.
Oh, definitely. And it was funny too, because my dad and I were talking about it, where it's like, if they wanted to just say we're going to play old school baseball rules for the Field of Dreams game, that could honestly like be like a fun thing. If they're like, you know what, we're going to do no 3-batter minimum, we're going to have no DH, we're going to just do like a full throwback game, and as such, no ABS. Like that could be entertaining. I don't know if teams would want to do that, because like, that there's more risk for injury with pitchers hitting and stuff like that. But it is a little weird. If they're going to use modern rules, they have to have ABS for next year. Like we can't just have ABS turned off. I think it might have froze. I hope not. You with me, Brian? Oh, here we go. Now I'm worried it's my Wi-Fi.
I think it's mine. I don't know what's going on, but you've been cutting in and out for a couple minutes. But yeah, if you just want to wrap it up, I think that
yeah. Let's
we can go.
But yeah, we can troubleshoot if there were any issues. But besides that, thank you all for listening to our, little.
Did you do the ad read? Did you do the ad read?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. Because I must have missed it.
Okay. No, I did.
No big deal. I just want to make sure we get that in there.
I agree. Hey, it's contractual, But yeah, I got the ad read in. And yeah, so besides that, thanks.
Hey, Jack, thanks for hosting tonight.
Oh,
you did.
Of course. Appreciate it. Yeah. This is, I think hopefully this was a success. If you hated this, let us know on YouTube, on Spotify.
And I don't know how does this work? Do we thank Beyond the Monster too and all that stuff too?
Yeah. Thanks to Beyond the Monster. Thanks to Jordan, wherever he is. I hope he's out. I hope he's doing well. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Rob Refsnyder. Thank you, Chad Tracy, Masa, and Justin Slayton in their recovery rooms. Prayers up. We didn't talk about that. Justin Slayton is also dead now. This bullpen is in shambles without Whitlock and Slayton. I'm a little concerned about that. But yeah,
be positive. We're going to be talking about a sweep next time we do our podcast. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening. And if there's anything else that you ever want from us, let us know. Once again, comments, Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere. And beyond that, see you next episode.
Thank you.
Like, this is called the pesky report. Like,